Hola everyone! Welcome to the Encouraged to Try podcast. My name is Mia and I will be the one to lovingly encourage you to try and continue on the journey of trying. This podcast is for those who are trying, whether at work, school, relationships, faith, fitness, business, basically figuring out life. So tune in to the podcast as we talk about these topics and encourage one another to try together. Also, if you are interested in the episode show notes, or if you just want to leave feedback, questions, suggested topics, the links are found in the episode description. So please do check it out. Hola everyone! Welcome to the 4th episode of the podcast. So the past months have been such a roller coaster ride for me, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. For this episode, I would be sharing with you about the struggles that I have been going through. So my struggles are mainly about dealing with being ghosted, disrespected, ignored, not being valued, apologized to, etc. Basically all the things that I have no control over. Don't get me wrong, this episode is not going to be me ranting all throughout the episode, but it is my way of sharing with you my learnings in not taking things personally. So let's dive into the episode. There are 2 things that we will be talking about in this episode. And these are, number 1, when should we take things personally and how to handle it in a healthy way? And number 2 is, when should we not take things personally? So let's go straight to the first point. Number 1 is, when should we take things personally and how to handle it in a healthy way? When I say taking things personally, it doesn't mean that you are ready to fight back or be defensive. Rather, it is all about taking serious matters seriously. It could be something that is very toxic, abusive, sexist, racist, and many more. So in order for you to do this, it all boils down to self-awareness and communication. Self-awareness and communication goes hand in hand because being self-aware is all about knowing what your boundaries are, what triggers you, what you are okay and not okay with, and communicate them with others. It is actually each individual's responsibility to know and communicate what you can and cannot tolerate. It could be with a family member, close friend, colleague, or just a complete stranger that you're talking to. And yes, different types of relationships have different types of communication. In every situation, you have control over your actions and how you will respond. But what you don't have control over is what the other person will do or say. Example, you might be having a conversation with a close friend, and in the middle of the conversation, he or she starts using their phone. Instead of being offended right away, you could tell them, "Hey, I value you as a friend and love spending time with you, but I feel unimportant and not heard when you're using your phone in the middle of our conversation. I would appreciate it if we spent quality time together without our phones." Of course, this can be a case-to-case basis. Just like if they only use their phone once during one of your conversations, then that is okay. But if they use their phone in every conversation, then that is a time to communicate. It is not about demanding or being strict, but mainly about your intention. If it comes from wanting to spend time with them, building the relationship, and valuing their time and presence, then that is pretty much where your communication is coming from. In addition to your intention, tone is also important, so that the person you're talking to will not take what you are saying to them the wrong way. Lastly, self-awareness and communication is progressive. It takes time and practice. So be patient with not only towards others, but with yourself as well. Now we go to the second point, and that is, when to not take things personally. From the first point, self-awareness and communication also plays a big role in this second point because in order for you to not take things personally, you have to understand that sometimes it is not about you. It took me a while to understand that people do not have the same views, upbringing, and experiences in life. therefore have different ways of thinking in how they do things. When I realized this fact, it was not about me at all. The world doesn't revolve around me. When someone treats me the way that I find it unpleasant or confusing, I don't get offended right away. But I pause and think about what the other person might be going through. It could be when you've been seen zoned or ghosted by someone. Yes, it is hurtful, and it is okay to acknowledge that hurt. But don't immediately blame or demand from that person for not giving you a proper response. They might be dealing with a personal or family issue, have change in their priorities, or they just didn't want to reply, and many more other reasons. Or when someone is very critical towards you, nitpicking all your flaws, or bashing you in social media. This is where self-awareness comes in. For you to be able to know what is being said about you is either true or not. Or if this person is having a bad day and they're just mirroring it to you. Through these experiences, I learned to take things with a grain of salt. Because how people treat you do not define who you are as a person. Do not jump into conclusions or assume, but rather look at the other person's intention. If what they're saying is for the purpose of making you better or tearing you down. When people criticize or judge you, it is rarely about you. Most of the time, it is about what they are feeling or going through in their life that they mirror it to the people around them. Each person has their own baggage or struggle that they are dealing with. If they don't reply or respond to your message, it is not about you. You might not know what that person is going through. Even when you have good communication in the past or not, how they respond or react is not your responsibility. Just like a quote from one of the TED Talks that I've watched, shift focus from me to we. See the intention of the other person. When you do this, you make space for understanding rather than irritation. To conclude, not taking things personally takes self-awareness, communication, and understanding that most of the time, it is not about you. When we don't take things personally, we gain a sense of control to our energy, response, thoughts, focus. We become more self-controlled and considerate of others and ourselves. Lastly, you are not defined by how people treat you, because you are created with value and purpose by a God who loves you dearly. Thank you for your time in listening to this episode, and I hope you gained a lot of insight from it. If you find this podcast helpful, please do share it with your friends, colleagues, or even your loved ones. Again, if you are interested in the episode show notes, or if you just want to leave feedback, questions, suggested topics, the links are found in the episode description. You can also send a direct message through the podcast Instagram account at EncouragedtoTrywithMiya. See you on the next episode. Bye!